Secretary General, thank you for your time. Thank you for speaking to Newsmax.
Pleasure to see you.
President Trump was just asked in this press conference whether Europe could one day defend itself without the United States, and he responded by saying, "Ask Mark." So I am now posing this question on to you. Can it? Do you see that as being a possibility in the near future?
Well, theoretically, maybe, but I think it is good that we stick together, because for the US to have a secure Atlantic, a secure Arctic and a secure Europe is very important. For the Europeans, to have that strong transatlantic relationship with the US is crucial. And we know that Euro-Atlantic is more and more getting connected with what is happening in the Pacific. If China would try something against Taiwan, the chances are very big that Xi Jinping will call his junior partner, which is one Vladimir Putin in Moscow, and ask him to keep us busy here. So this is all interconnected. So I think also long term, what you will see is that the US will do gradually, not as much as they are doing currently, pivot more towards Asia, but they will stay involved in NATO.
What do you see as being the largest threat to NATO at present?
The largest threat at present clearly is Russia. There's no doubt. But we are all very worried about North Korea now fighting in Europe a war, the Russians against Ukraine. We see China, which is massively building up its military capabilities. They have now the same amount as ships sailing as the US. They will have 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030. Of course, we have the mullahs in Iran, and we know what they're up to. And Iran, North Korea, China are supporting Russia in the war effort against Ukraine. So this is all getting interconnected. But the main threat, to answer your question, obviously and clearly is Russia.
The Trump administration says it's committed to NATO, but what about Ukraine? If the US pulls back, what does that mean for NATO? And could Europe go it alone?
Well, first of all, let me say that President Trump was the one who broke the deadlock with Putin. So he started that debate directly with Putin. And I always thought this was crucial when he came in office in January. So I commend him for that. I know that he is very much committed to ending this war. He finds it terrible that it is still ongoing. He is very much motivated. He had a good meeting today with President Zelensky here in this building. I spoke with the president of Ukraine after his meeting with President Trump. And it went very well. Of course, the Europeans and the Canadians taking a bigger share of the cost when it comes to the support for Ukraine, I think is only logical. But that doesn't mean that the US is withdrawing. I don't feel that.
This year's annual NATO summit strikes a different tone, but again, some would say particularly on Ukraine. We've gone from affirming Ukraine's undeniable right to NATO membership, we've heard you say that, to some saying there was a bit more cautious language that could be trying to accommodate President Trump's position. What does this ultimately mean for Ukraine's path to NATO? And how do you respond to the Trump administration saying Ukraine's membership is off the table?
Well, the irreversible path into NATO for Ukraine is still on the table, is still there. The statement today is a one-pager, basically updating what we decided previously on 3 issues: the financial support for Ukraine, of course the spending as NATO itself, and defense industrial production. So in that sense, things have not changed. But of course, also in the past we had allies basically saying there is this irreversible path, but we are against it. Hungary, Slovakia, the US, also the previous administration. So in a sense, there's nothing new there.
Do you believe that Vladimir Putin is going to respond to pressure from President Trump? Do you see an end to this conflict?
Well, first of all, again, the fact that President Trump broke the deadlock after he came into office and started this direct dialogue with Putin was crucial. And really, I commend him for it, because he's the only one who can do that. The US is the biggest country on earth, the most powerful military, and the President of the United States is the only one who can guide those talks. And he's doing it. So let's praise him for that, because it's praise well deserved. I think what happened now with Iran is projecting American power on the world stage, saying here's a president who has the strength to do what is necessary. He's willing to use it, but in a very measured way. But this is a signal. If I was in Beijing, Xi Jinping, or in Moscow, Putin, I would be sitting there and seeing that footage. I would not be happy. I would think, oh, okay, they are really serious, these Americans. And this is exactly what we need, projecting American power on the world stage.
Today, you and President Trump praised NATO members committing to spend 5% on defense, but we saw a country like Spain say they can't meet that target, and President Trump called it unfair. What's your message to American taxpayers who think NATO allies aren't pulling their weight?
The good thing today is that where the US currently is spending about 3.5% on core defense, and no doubt the other 1.5%, which leads into the 5% on security and defense-related spending, so the US is doing that, the others now will do the same. That means that the American taxpayers will not pay more. It will be the Europeans and the Canadians to step up to equalize their spending with the United States. And this is a big policy win for President Trump because he has consistently pleaded for this. And already President Eisenhower was irritated about the fact that the Europeans were paying less than Americans. So we're now finally correcting that. And we not only do this because of the US being equal with us in terms of spending, but also, of course, because of the Russian threat.
You praised President Donald Trump's actions with Iran. If the nuclear program wasn't destroyed, which we're hearing reports about, and the United States hypothetically was to go back and bomb Iran, do you believe this could spiral into a larger campaign that could draw in more NATO members?
I'm not afraid of that. And I think what the president did was very chirurgical. It was very targeted. It was saying after what Israel had done, but Israel not being able with their own military to really get deep into the nuclear facilities. And yeah, I mean, the US has, of course, the best military in the world. You have the B-2s, you have these huge bombs which can really penetrate deep into these caved-in locations in Iran. I think this was a demonstration of, yes, strength, but also peace, because it was targeted. It was very much targeted on those 3 or 4 facilities. And the president immediately followed it up with a call for a ceasefire, and he was successful in getting the ceasefire done between Israel and Iran. So I think he did exactly what he needed to do. And I was very happy because the nuclear capability for Iran is a threat to all of us.
Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
A pleasure.